This is the North Phoenix Chamber of Commerce, and this is our recording of the candidate forums. We've got an opportunity here to meet today with Dave Siebert, who's running for City Council for District 1 this year for the 2020 election. And Dave, thank you for joining us today.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity.
Yep, awesome. I would just like to ask you a few questions around the business community in particular, and hear your perspective on your campaign platform and how you're thinking in terms of small business climate in particular. So I'm going to start out with the first question. What differentiates you from your opponents from a business perspective?
You know, I've had a policy in the political world that I really never speak about my opponent, whether they are qualified or their lack thereof. I speak about why I'm qualified, so I hope you don't mind. That's the direction I'd like to go.
That's
I
great.
do believe in taking the high road. And I'll give a little bit of a history about myself. I'm a fourth generation Arizonan. I was born in Phoenix. I've lived in the Valley my entire life. And from a business perspective, I helped build a family business. And it was a mini storage. And it was my parents' land, it was my grandfather's money, and the family built everything on that mini storage pretty much except for the concrete, the block, and the asphalt. And I did more work than all the other family members combined on building that from 1979 and into 1994 when we moved out. It was a successful business. I've been there through the entitlements, I've seen the engineering, I've been through the permitting, and so I have a really good understanding of what it takes to build a business. I also have a degree in criminal justice, summa cum laude from Arizona State University. And I also chaired the Deer Valley Village Planning Committee in Northwest Phoenix successfully, not only designing the first multi-use recreational trail system in Northwest Phoenix, but one of my specialties was protecting the Deer Valley Airport from injurious encroachment. That was a huge thing for me, not only when I was on the village, but also when I was on the city council. I was a hearing officer in the justice court system. I was vice chair of the Parks Board, and I did run for the city council in 1995. My term was 4-year terms, 3 terms, term limits ran out. And so I served from 1996 through 2007. I was vice mayor in 1998 and also in 2007. After that, I also helped on the Fire Safety Advisory Board. I was co-chair of that. And I also serve on the Citizen Transportation Commission. So during all of that time, my civic involvement has been extensive. I also saved the Pioneer Living History Museum up in North Phoenix after I'd saved the Ben Avery Range from, they tried to sell about 300 to 400 acres of it for an auto mall. And I'd made a promise to Ben Avery himself when I first ran for office that I would protect it. Little did I know the big fight we would get into. But after I saved that, I did save the Pioneer Living History Museum when I left office. And so that's been a labor of love for many years, a lot more time than I ever anticipated. But I do have a strong background in public safety. The police are supporting me because in these trying times right now, we have cities, major cities, where there's areas that are burning. There's looters, there's anarchists. It's ugly. And at the same time, they're trying to defund the police. My degrees in criminal justice. I've built a strong relationship with the police over the years. I've started some of the most innovative programs while I was in office. And that's the reason the police are supporting me, because as a business person, how are you going to make your investment into a community where you don't know whether you're going to be protected, whether it's either you as a business or protecting your employees? You have an ethical obligation to see that that's done. And so public safety clearly is number one, and that is one of my absolute strong points. And the other thing is infrastructure, and I can talk about that later, but I was very involved in some tremendous infrastructure that was put in over the years of my years on the city council. Education is important, and people ask, well, gee, the city doesn't run schools. Well, no, they don't. But I was heavily involved not only as a vice chair of the Parks Board, but also the city council for the Head Start program, which helps 3 to 5 year olds get a start, and the underprivileged kids, so they have a start when they go into kindergarten, into the first grade, that they have a level playing field with the other kids. And it's a tremendous program. The city can be involved in that, along with after school programs. But the biggest thing that I was involved in education was working with Mayor Gordon on landing the U of A Medical School downtown Phoenix, and also landing the ASU College of Nursing in downtown Phoenix. And at the same time that was going on, there was a push amongst the Board of Regents to spin off ASU West to NAU. And I worked with the legislators and of course worked with our connections as we were working with the U of A and ASU at the same time to see that that didn't happen. So I did my part to make sure that a gem of District 1, ASU West, remained under the ASU umbrella. So I've been involved from fiscal responsibility, education, public safety, infrastructure. I've been involved for many years. And again, I served for the 12 years. It's obviously not a career for me because I've been gone almost 13 years. But I'm proud of the record that I had. And I had a very strong business environment that I promoted while I was on the city council.
For this next term, what would be any plans that you have for any legislation that you think can impact businesses in the district? If you have any plans for legislation, or that would be either some new legislation that you might be, thinking about introducing, or repealing any old legislation that you think maybe needs repealed. Do you have any plans around that?
The city doesn't do legislation. We have ordinances, of course, but
okay.
They can affect, they can clearly affect businesses. And let me give you an example of my philosophy. And I can do this best with an example that actually happened. I have a strong belief that you don't change the rules midstream. And I'll give you an example. When I came into office in the area that you cover, there are impact fees north of the CAP Canal. And in the early 2000s, right before summer break, staff comes in and says, hey, let's move the impact fee zones south of the CAP Canal down to Happy Valley Road. And I said, go mess with somebody else's district. Don't mess with my district. I don't like changing the rules midstream because, again, coming from a business background, you have to understand what is the one thing that businesses rely on? They rely on knowing what the rules are. That's extremely important. So anyway, staff was lobbying against me, and me, I can only talk to 4 people, including myself, without breaking the open meeting law, which I would never do. So we go into the council meeting right before the summer break, and I don't have the votes to kill it, but my colleagues don't want to harm me. And so it was like this stalemate there. And finally, we tabled it over that summer break. Towards the end of the summer, Frank Fairbanks, the city manager, comes to me and says, Councilman Siebert, it's a good thing you were so stubborn on those impact fee zones because the Community Economic Development Department has a really big fish on the line. And they use code words, by the way, and the code name was Big Dog. So Big Dog was on the line. We had a chance to land them. Had we allowed those impact fee zones to move, and again, changing the rules midstream, they wouldn't even been interested in talking to us. So Mayor Rimza and I met with a wonderful man named General Harries. He's a retired Air Force general, decorated in the Vietnam War. And Big Dog was USAA. And I remember with Mayor Rimza meeting with General Harries, and I remember telling, because I knew he was an Air Force general, and I said, General, if you were about 2 miles closer to the Deer Valley Airport, you could taxi to work. And the look on his face, I knew we had him. I told the mayor, I said, Mayor, we've got him. He loves us, and sure enough, as you can see, we landed him. But just that one instance of making a huge mistake and changing the rules midstream, businesses need to know what the rules are. It's critically important for their success. And another thing, speaking of legislation itself, is I was heavily involved in providing people for the high-tech industry. And we lost a very important East Valley high-tech plant to Rio Rancho, New Mexico in 1993 because we didn't have the foreign trade zone. And so me and the business community, a lot of other people, everybody was involved in this. And we got the foreign trade zone. And so they landed another fab in 1994 on an Ocotillo campus of a huge conglomerate that provides thousands and thousands of jobs for the East Valley. Had they not had the foreign trade zone, those plants wouldn't be there. And so when you ask about legislation, things that are important, there's an opportunity in Northwest Phoenix to land some high-tech manufacturing. And a lot of people don't know that when the foreign trade zone first started, it was actually managed by the city of Phoenix. People didn't realize that. And so I had the opportunity of seeing that when I was first in office. But I can tell you that that foreign trade zone will probably be needed if we land some high-tech industry in Northwest Phoenix District 1.
Do you have any other plans for economic growth within this area? I know that having that trade zone available, right, and still in place is critical. You mentioned that. Is there anything else, any particular plans around economic growth for your district?
You know, you have to realize living in Arizona that water is the lifeblood of anything, and infrastructure is key. If Phoenix is able to land a high-tech facility in Northwest Phoenix, it will be because of the Lake Pleasant water treatment plant that already exists up there. That happened to me, my personal project and my baby from day one. It was about 20 years ago. I had to annex around 20 square miles to pick that up. Had a big argument with Peoria that tried to keep us off the property we needed. You have to remember that that plant had to be in a specific location so it could draw water from not only the CAP Canal, but also from Lake Pleasant as a major reservoir. And so that $300 million plant, which was built on time, on budget, by local labor, it's paying off now, because if we land that, it's because of the infrastructure. And another piece of infrastructure that may not sound really neat to talk about is landfill space. You just don't think about it a lot. But when I first came into office in 1996, the only Phoenix operational landfill within the city of Phoenix was Skunk Creek landfill. So guess what? All the trash from almost the entire city of Phoenix, with rare exceptions, and an exception of Ahwatukee that went to the Butterfield landfill south of South Mountain, it all went to Skunk Creek. Well, guess what? Nobody wants a landfill, and you can't shut it until you find a new one. I worked for almost 3 years. Mayor Rimza appointed me to the Environment and Natural Resources Subcommittee, says, since it's in your district, go fix it. Well, guess what? It took about 3 years. I worked with a staff member named Mark Leonard, and we finally built a relationship with the town of Buckeye. And I invited them out on a tour of the Skunk Creek landfill. And they got to see a hole about 100 feet deep, lined, right near where Standard Day O'Connor High School is. And they were so impressed by the way that we had built it and the quality of our public works system that they agreed to allow us to buy land in the town of Buckeye and basically partner with them. It's our landfill, we run it, but they have landfill space there. So by working hard, finding a space, and then on top of that, because I'm a fiscal conservative, but I'm what I call a honest, business-oriented fiscal conservative, I believe you have to invest in your business to survive and to be prosperous. I have that strong belief. So I went to staff after 3 mind-numbing years of landing a site, and I said, let's buy everything that we can possibly buy in that area. And so we spent a lot of money buying extra land. A year after that, Alton Washington, who was a deputy city manager, came to me and he says, Councilman Siebert, do you know how much that land went up in 1 year? And I said, no. He said, 300%. Well, think about that, 300% in 1 year. And then he says, we've done some rough calculations. Do you know how much landfill space we have now? I said, well, a lot. I said, no. He said, roughly 100-year capacity. Now think about that. Nobody in my lifetime will have to go through what I went through to close down a landfill. And I turned the Skunk Creek landfill into a city park. It's a city park. A lot of people don't realize that. And so again, infrastructure, whether it's transportation, whether it's your water, whether it's your landfill, may not be exciting things to talk about, but those are absolutely critical for the business community. You don't think about it until you need it.
Is there anything else for the business owners within District 1 that you would like them to know about in order to support your candidacy? What should business owners, why should business owners consider supporting your candidacy? Anything else you haven't shared yet?
Well, basically my experience, not only with some very innovative programs in police work, that's why, like I said, the police are supporting me, but also my business experience, my educational background, my ability to help our team, including Mayor Gordon and some other council members, land ASU nursing school and the U of A medical school. Think about that with the rivalries that were going on back then. We got them to work together, to work downtown. And the reason I think this is important, especially keeping ASU West back in those days under the umbrella of ASU, is that if we are able to land high-tech facilities, we need to use the relationships that we built years ago to make sure that ASU West can provide the training and the education for these high-tech jobs. We have the opportunity, if everything goes right, if all the infrastructure we started putting in 20 years ago, if it all pays off, we will be in a position to have another high-tech hub where we can be the driving force of quality jobs that pay pensions and healthcare and truly a tremendous quality of life for Phoenicians in Northwest Phoenix. And I'm the one that has the experience. I have the dedication. I have the support of the police and the firefighters. I have been instrumental in building that infrastructure. And I believe that I have the vision that I put in this infrastructure years ago that is finally now starting to pay off. And so it may not seem like exciting things, but it's those things that make the business community, gives them the opportunity so that they can prosper. And so that's my goal. And I certainly appreciate your opportunity to tell the public and the business community where I come from, my experience, and my dedication to District 1.
Alrighty, thank you very much. David Siebert, candidate for District 1 City Council in Phoenix, Arizona. So thank you, sir, for the time.